The topic for today of our Biz Talk session is going to be resilient now. So as we talk about Houston's energy transition, there's a key role that both members who work for corporations, you as a community citizen, have as part of this process. So what we're going to do is to let Elizabeth share some information with you about the City of Houston and CenterPoint's partnership for Resilient Now, which covers, I won't steal her thunder, which covers a lot of information that you need to know as both a citizen of Houston to understand how you can participate in the energy transition, as well as a business owner, so that you can help understand where the opportunities will be for participation in that energy transition. So with that, Elizabeth.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's me again. I wanted to tell you that I'm really excited to be here. As Ingrid said, we do have a lot of exciting things going on at CenterPoint Energy. First and foremost, our CEO and our new leadership team, which came on board about 2 years ago, have a strong focus on customer service. And a part of that strong focus on customer service was to set up what is my department now. And so I'm Vice President of Energy Solutions. I oversee our economic development, our electric transportation, our energy efficiency, business development, and our large customer accounts. My current role, I engage, and my expertise is engaging with people and solving problems. For the longest time, I told people that I felt like I was a firefighter, because if it was an issue on my desk, we were putting out fires. And so as a result, we want to make sure that instead of putting out fires, we're actually being proactive and figuring out how we can best serve our customers. We do a really, really good job at the residential level of serving our customers. We needed to take that same level of engagement with our business community. And so Resilient Now is a part of that. I also get to use this platform in order to help people and to help solve problems. So that's really exciting. Today, I plan on walking you through what we consider our current energy climate, and also our customer program, which is called Resilient Now, and how that impacts the energy transition. So first, I want to start by telling you a little bit about who we are. We serve currently 2.8 million electric customers in 2 states. We also have 4.2 million customers in 6 states. And then we have our competitive business services that are in 20 states. So, you believe everything happens for a reason, and that timing is really important? I believe that, and I feel like since I took on this role that it has been really important, because everything that's going around us. Like I said, I felt like when I first started at CenterPoint and was working, that we were putting out fires a lot. And so there was a need to be proactive and understand, where our customer needs are. But then we also realized that our climate is changing. And so, for example, the severe weather and the storms that we're seeing are coming with more and more frequency and intensity. And so that, coupled with this energy transition and businesses going to more ESG, implementing ESG goals and implementing, their targets and how they're going to be successful in this new energy transition. It was really important for us to figure out what our role in terms of power is in that space. And so we began by communicating with the City of Houston. So we had our focus of not only with businesses, but also our cities. So I don't know if you know this, but our electric territory covers 106 cities. And, cities tend to represent communities. And so when you're dealing with your cities, you're dealing with your communities. And so we began our engagement with our largest customer and our largest city, which is the City of Houston. And so as a result of that engagement, we realized that we need to be working together to help solve problems. We need to be working together to help plan for the future. So the energy transition is a big piece of that. So we're seeing electrification like we've never seen it before. We're seeing economic growth and prosperity like we've never seen it before. how are we thinking about this new energy space that we need to be preparing for? So when we began that transition, it was really important for us to understand what all of the needs were. Now, once we were beginning this process, Winter Storm Uri happened. And when Winter Storm Uri happened, it just accelerated that engagement. We had lots of customers that didn't really understand what happened. And so just to be clear, our system did perform well. And so I like to use the analogy of doctors and vaccines. So the doctors during COVID were ready to use a vaccine, but they didn't have any vaccines. So, you had people waiting for the vaccine. That's kind of how Uri was with us. We were ready to supply the power. Our infrastructure was in place. We just didn't have the power to supply to our customers. And so we want to make sure that an event like that doesn't happen. We want to make sure that people understand what exactly happened and what are the things that we can do to put in place to make sure that we're prepared in the future, especially as you see more and more renewables come online, as you're seeing more electrification come online. We have begun this engagement and talking to our customers, and each of the customer segments that we're speaking to are reporting a tremendous amount of growth. And so all of that growth that we're seeing, the Port of Houston is telling us that they're going to be 5 times as large as they were. The medical center is, a year ago they were planning for for TMC 3. Now they're planning for TMC 4, and they're not even finished with TMC 3. So, and on and on. I mean, they're just examples of that. So we're seeing, like I said, tremendous amount of growth, and we're also seeing this transition to electric too, as it relates to transportation. So as we think about also electric transportation, what are the things that we need to do in order to be successful in this space, because we see it coming. So, we initially started this engagement with, like I said, the City of Houston. We've expanded it to various segments like healthcare and education and manufacturing, and what we're calling is high consequence areas. So if you think about things that are really important to communities, and making sure that we're prepared for communities that are most vulnerable. So I've been using the word vulnerable because a lot of times we think of, well, low income, that doesn't matter, that doesn't affect me. But vulnerable, there's a lot of people that can be vulnerable and not be low income. So your elderly people can be vulnerable. You can be geographically vulnerable. So the people in Galveston are, the hardest impacted by a natural disaster. So think about vulnerabilities and how we can address that. And so we're looking at talking about it in a different way so that we get more buy-in and understanding about what it means to be vulnerable and how we need to address those issues and better serve. So we worked with the City of Houston to focus on transformative change as it relates to resilient solutions, and in order to keep the city safe and vibrant and moving forward. Centerpoint and the City of Houston started by reviewing what we already had in place. We didn't need to reinvent the wheel. So the City of Houston has the Resilient Houston Plan, the Complete Communities Plan, and the Climate Action Plan. And how did we went and we took components of each of those plans and sought to see how it related to energy and where we could be helpful. So we created a collaborative framework. It's the first of its kind to build a master energy plan for Houston. And actually, you're really lucky for those of you in the room, because you're the first time hearing this, because we're actually going to be having a press release about this later, so you get a sneak peek into what's to come. But this collaborative framework is for the City of Houston to build a regional master energy plan to actually coordinate. And you're probably wondering, okay, well, why is that important? It's important because first of all, we're the energy capital of the world, and we want to be the energy transition capital of the world. And so we want to continue to lead. But we also want to for you to understand that this collaborative framework is really important because it's a first of its kind. We have energy sectors that operate independently, and this is bringing everybody to the table to get an understanding of what's needed from various sectors. And so, we're really proud of the work that the City of Houston and CenterPoint have done. We brought all of our leaders, all of our executives together, and we brought all of the executives from the City of Houston into one room to talk about the importance of this. And I want you to know, the City of Houston's been around for over 100 years. Well, so has CenterPoint. And this was the first time that all of the leaders were in the same room at the same time. So it really was a historical moment, and we're very proud of it. So what are the City of Houston's goals? City of Houston is looking to, one, have a comprehensive energy plan. They want to have 24/7 reliability for those critical infrastructures that are so important, like wastewater and our medical center, which our medical center does have redundancies, but just to make sure that there are other critical facilities that need to be hardened. Having near term, what can we do immediately, right out the door to be more resilient? And then how do we need to be thinking about this in terms of long-term planning? So for our, 10 years out, and so we're planning for the energy transition as we're looking at new technologies for energy. And then we want to be more energy efficient. And so how do we incorporate weatherization in energy plans for everybody? And then we also want to have an education plan. So the education plan is to instill public confidence. I went to a community meeting and they were giving the city a hard time about not doing enough in the energy space. And, I quickly stood up and said, look, it's not that they're not doing a good job. It's that we haven't communicated that they're doing a good job. And so communicating, instilling that public confidence is really important. And so you're probably wondering at this point, well, how does this affect me? Well, growth and economic prosperity and opportunity affects you. And in order to be prepared for the future, we're looking at essential and critical infrastructure that needs to be built. We need to be ready for electrification in the future, and that means that we're going to have to think about planning and engineering new infrastructure for that. We're also looking at grid hardening and hardening in places where, or undergrounding in places where it will help give us the outcomes that we're looking for. And then what's really important is that we need somebody to do all this work, right? We're not going to be able to do it ourselves. Our workforce is really important. These jobs are not low-paying jobs. They're very well salaried jobs, and we're looking at, as we implement this robust capital plan that's designed to meet our customers' needs, that we also will help stimulate our economy, will help stimulate our workforce, and provide opportunities. So just real quickly, I'll run through some of the things that we're looking at. For CenterPoint, we're looking at upgrading infrastructure, doing health assessments on our current infrastructure, monitoring and elevating equipment like substations, automating switches, doing targeted underground. Now, I have to say targeted underground because you hear underground and then you think you're never going to see a pole again. That's not the case. Having emergency generation are just to name a few. And so the benefit to our customers is that, we're looking at better restoration times, looking at greater accuracy, fewer and shorter unplanned outages, improved power quality, more flexibility, enhanced security and safety, and increased information to customers. We're also working with the Greater Houston Partnership on this initiative. As part of the partnership's dedication to strengthening Houston's position as the energy capital of the world, they've created the Houston Energy Transition Initiative. And in order to prioritize Houston as leading in global energy, they have this initiative is called HEDI, and we're proud to say that one of their components is power. And so we'll be leading the power discussion around HEDI. Now they're estimating that through the energy transition that we're looking at an additional 560,000 jobs in the Houston area, which is pretty significant. I'll shift a moment to talk about electric transportation because that's near and dear to my heart and excites me. It's a real passion. In fact, I co-founded a nonprofit called Evolve Houston, and it's to advance air quality through transportation, electric transportation. And if you didn't know that electric transportation represents the most cost-effective way to help us clean our air. And we have an e-mobility team that works with Evolve Houston to help answer people's questions, point people in the right direction. And we have an interactive website, and we're really excited about the direction. We're working with the Houston Auto Show. Just a couple years ago, we contacted the auto show, and this was 3 years ago. I reached out and said, do y'all have any EVs at the auto show? They said no. I said, why not? And they said, well, we hadn't thought of that, but I guess we could get one. And I said, okay. So they went from having one that year to having a corner to this year being the centerpiece. And next year, they want to have half of the showroom filled with electric vehicles, just to show you, give you a visual of where we're heading. They're also, Evolve is helping with ride and drives. And the important piece about a ride and drive, and I tell this all the time, so whether you are, an environmentalist or not, or whether you, believe in electrification or not, the one thing that you will experience when you drive an electric vehicle is the fun factor. They are really neat vehicles. They have neat technology, and the people that I know that drive electric vehicles say that they never want to go back. So I think that's where we're trending. So just a couple of quick facts about EVs. Today in Texas, we have 134,000 EVs. In Houston, we have 12,000. We're looking to grow by 2030 to 2.5 million EVs on the Texas roads. We see that EVs will be has tripled in growth in the last 2 years. When you look at EVs, the total cost of ownership, you save money. They're excellent performance. They clean the air. And I don't know if you knew this, but they can serve as a backup generator. So you could back up your house for up to 3 days. It's pretty cool. So I tried to give you an idea of where we are in terms of energy, just give you a sneak peek of the energy sector as we see it today as it relates to our climate, but also where we're going in the future with more ESG goals and renewables coming online. I hope that your takeaway is that there's opportunity and that there's going to be growth and prosperity. I don't want you to shy away from telling people that you're a minority business, that you should really know that companies are impressed and wanting to do business with minority businesses. And so let it be known what your services are. And that's really important, especially to Centerpoint. So in closing, I just want to say that I believe that the future is bright, and I want to thank you for inviting me to be your speaker today. So I appreciate you.
Can you hear me okay? Yes. How about one more time for Elizabeth? Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Charlet. I'm president of the Houston Business Journal. I'm pleased to be with you, and we're going to do a Q&A for about 20 minutes. And after that Q&A, I hope you'll be thinking about some questions that you can ask Elizabeth when we're finished. And let me say that HBJ is very, very proud to be a sponsor and supporter of the council for 22 years? A long, long, long time. And
I was 5.
25 years?
No, I said I was 5.
And just while I'm thinking about it, congratulations to all of the honorees. If any of them are still here, congratulations, doing great work. And Elizabeth, terrific, exciting presentation, a lot going on, and it is great that Houston is really in the lead of the new energy initiative also, and that is a task that we all need to undertake. So thank you for the leadership there.
Thank you.
So let's jump into some questions. You ready? How did the Resilient Now program come about?
So, the Resilient Now program came about because there was this enthusiasm around collaboration. Collaboration and communication. People and companies wanted to know a lot more about how they could be involved, express their needs. This energy transition is happening. We're experiencing more and more frequent and weather events, and as a result, we found that there was a time that this was the time when we all needed to come together to help solve a problem. And so we decided that we would give it a name. And we named it Resilient Now so we could know what exactly we were calling our initiative. And it was important to emphasize the now piece. Like, we couldn't wait till later. We couldn't be resilient later. We needed to be resilient now. And we needed to start on these things immediately. Even though we have long-term plans, it was important for us to have our short-term and immediate goals.
Terrific. I like resilient. Question 2, have you engaged other cities or stakeholders in regard to Resilient Now?
Yes, so we've met with our other large cities and we want to continue to engage. We've engaged with Galveston, Pasadena, Sugar Land, our major large cities, Lake Jackson. They're very excited. They want to hear more. Pasadena wants to know about undergrounding, and especially folks that are closer to the water and are impacted the most. And they're also glad that Houston is taking the lead on this effort. And so, Houston has been great working with the other cities and in terms of making sure that this is a regional approach and it's not just the city of Houston. And so we were very deliberate about that from the very beginning, that we wanted to make sure that it was inclusive of the entire region. We also wanted to make sure we were inclusive of companies and industries. And so we broke down, we have these customer advisory panels, and we started with a really diverse advisory panel. Later, each of those panels said, hey, can you come talk to our industry members? And so we broke out and created verticals and, to get a good understanding of, one, where are they looking? What is their anticipated growth? And that's really important because from a planning perspective, a lot of times you don't start planning until it's too late. And we need to be forecasting. We need to know, especially with labor shortages and supply shortages, we need to know exactly the earlier the better, so that way we can start planning and understand how we need to be thinking about growth, and especially as it relates to right-sizing your talent.
Just a follow-up question to that question. I would imagine these stakeholders were pleased that you were reaching out to them, because I think sometimes it's easy for entities to feel left out of the conversation. Was that kind of how that was when you were reaching out?
Absolutely, and I think that's part of the reason why the verticals were developed, because, like I said, we started with a diverse panel so we could get diverse perspectives, but then other industry members said, hey, we want to be a part of the conversation too. This is too important to be left out. And it turns out that everything starts with energy. And you can't get started with your business until you have the energy in place. And so having those conversations, understanding what their power quality needs are and how we need to be planning in the future was really important. And I think that the key thing for everyone was, one, understanding what we're up against, and then also being a part of the conversation. So communication was a big deal.
Okay, question number 3. What would you consider the key takeaway from Resilient Now? Key takeaway.
I would say the key takeaway is communication and collaboration. It has been amazing to me to see when you get people in the room and you talk and you explain and you use thought leadership, that it is impressive, and it looks and we're all on the same team. We're on this Houston region team, and that we're competing against other cities around the United States. And so if we're not prepared, we're going to be left behind. And I don't think anybody, especially in the business community, these initiatives are business led. And so when you're looking at economic growth, it's so important, and it's so important for the brand of Houston. You know, we don't want to be known as the natural disaster city of the world. We want to be known as, a vibrant economic engine, and that's exactly what we're trying to change, is this perception. I went to another city, and I was looking at a presentation, and they had talked about the weather events that were happening in Houston. So, we have to overcome this perception. We have to stop bashing ourselves as Houstonians. Stop talking about the bad weather. It's actually really nice outside. So, we need to have that pride, and especially as we're looking at growth and economic development.
Just as a sidebar, the energy conversation in Houston as a leader, HBJ has been in Houston for 51 years. Energy is by far our #1 most read content. Mm-hmm. We've got about 1 million readers per month, and only half of those are in Houston.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
So there's a lot of folks following energy in
Yes.
Houston, and we need to take the lead there.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm going to put that in my talking points.
Question number 4, how can, and this is relevant to these folks, how can people or vendors learn more about Resilient now? And what can we expect next?
So we're going to be, once we have our press announcement, we'll be launching a website where you can learn more about the initiatives with Resilient Now. And it'll detail some of the initiatives that will be taking place and the partnerships with our various cities. And so we'll be promoting that.
Terrific. And reminder for our audience, if you have questions, we'll get to them shortly. Question number 5, and we only have a couple more left. What are some of the biggest opportunities coming out of the energy transition?
So I think the biggest opportunity is infrastructure. We'll be looking to first of all expand the infrastructure that we have today, modernize the infrastructure, and then plan for future infrastructure. So infrastructure is a huge piece, particularly for people in this room, but it's not just linemen that we'll be looking for, but there'll be all the services that support what the linemen do. So engineering, architecture, all of those things.
Terrific. Okay, I have one final question. What are you most proud of with this customer program?
I am so proud of the fact that this has come together very organically. And, part of the reason why I'm so busy is because we have gotten so much enthusiasm. And, I brought folks together so that way we could have the conversation, not knowing just how much appetite there would be out there, and need for leadership. So we work in some circles and we talk about next steps and what we're doing, and that we're actually part of the energy transition, and we'll look back at that moment and think, we really did have an impact. We planned ahead, and we get to look back on the work that we've done and create opportunities for our region.
Awesome. How about some applause one more time for Elizabeth? Okay, guys, hopefully you've got some questions. If you do, would you raise your hand? And from our audience, I think we can figure out a way to get you heard. Don't be shy. Nobody has a question. Yes, sir.
Sure. So thank you for sharing everything that you're pointing out. So in looking at infrastructure and the bottlenecks with permitting specifically, what, if anything, is center point doing or looking to be doing to kind of ease that time frame, the delays associated with the permitting?
Would you mind repeating that question just so everybody could hear you?
Currently there's some ongoing projects and it's fairly new, getting started. That being said, there's quite a bit of bottlenecks throughout the process. I think that's just a natural progression of energy transition, right? That being said, what, if anything, is Centerpoint doing to alleviate those bottlenecks or really work with people that are doing the implementation, design, building, and implementation of that infrastructure to kind of speed up either that process or expedite it? We've got a project that we're looking at doing. It's just been pushed back. But essentially, what, if anything, can we do, or is there in the future that alleviate that?
So we do work with the city of Houston on their permits, and they have a backlog. We talk about the labor shortage and the resource shortage, but I will say that that's part of the reason why we need to plan. And so the sooner we know that you have a project, the earlier that we can start planning for it. I think the challenge that we get is when we're brought in at the last hour or late hour, and then it makes it challenging. Another thing is that I've experienced is communication with the project manager is really important, because many times the project manager doesn't make the owner or his stakeholders aware of what's going on, and so making sure that you're on top of things like throughout the process, so that way it doesn't get held up later is important too.
That's a good question. Back here. Thanks for the question.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, so when you guys talk about the energy transition, how do you envision the change in demand, especially from an information technology standpoint? What do you see as being like the primary stresses on, I guess, legacy IT, and then where we need to be from an IT infrastructure standpoint, to be able to be better equipped to handle however the future looks from an energy perspective? What are solutions that you guys are looking at, or how can people who provide those solutions be very beneficial or position themselves, as we transition to more electric, means of electricity?
Well, I'm not in the IT department, but I will say that IT is a big part of our business, and I do know that cybersecurity is a big deal and a big issue that we face. One of the things that we do is talk about how we can help alleviate some of the pressure that IT has by holding ourselves accountable for phishing and cyber attacks, and the importance of educating your workforce on how they can help IT. But I will say that it is a big part of our business. I don't know. Like I said, I don't work in the IT department or follow IT that closely, so I'm not sure if I answered your question very well.
Hi, Jonathan Garcia with Kinder Morgan across the street from you, so thanks
Hi.
for coming today. Question on the electric vehicle front. We love our trucks here in Texas, our ICE vehicles. So if everyone were to switch tomorrow to a bunch of Teslas, would the grid be able to handle that? Or what are you guys projecting long-term of our vehicle rate adoption to electric vehicles, and then is Centerpoint, kind of scaling to meet that demand?
That's what we're working on. We're working on now. We don't generate, but we are working on ensuring that we have enough transmission to be able to bring energy online. I don't see this conversion happening overnight. It is going to be over a period of time. Part of that is because we need to get the electric vehicles here. We are at Centerpoint. We just, I think, purchased 15 of the F-150s electric trucks. So those trucks are coming. That's really exciting. So we'll see some of those conversions. I know Metro is converting to e-buses as well. So it is an additional load, and that's part of what our issue is that we need to be planning for.
Good question.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
How about one more? Okay, maybe two more.
Hello, thank you for trying to ask the question here. I appreciate you guys being here to help us and educate us. Thank you so much. My name is Evelyn Fletcher. I'm with Electronic Assembly Service. We build electrical control panels for the oil and gas industry, but also diversifying and getting into the EV charging stations. And I know I've been doing a lot of research on this because one thing when you do the EV charging stations, you have level 1, level 2, and level 3. The level 3 is the one that you have to put infrastructure into the parking lot when you do the construction, you dig everything out and put all the electric, all the wiring. Second, on the level 3, I was told that you have to modify the building because it won't take the grid. And I was just wondering if y'all know anything about that related to that. Because we are going to be, we're around that area now.
So Evolve Houston is working with the City of Houston on building standards, and right now we don't have any ordinances as it relates to electric charging stations, but it is on the agenda for them to consider because you're right, it does require a different type of planning.
That's right. And I'm also, I've been doing also business with CenterPoint. It was 155 yoga assembly control panels to build, and I thank them very much for that.
Nice. Thank you.
Another good question. One more right up here in the front.
I'm getting my exercise.
Thank you. My name is Naomi J. Carty, and my question is more around people, human capital capacity. This is a huge change and transition that's going through and happening. And just wondering, are there any plans, is there a plan in place for handling the change management of this sort in dealing with all levels? Like you said, one of the situations is the project managers going on and not communicating it through. Are you putting checks and balances in places like that to make sure that it's an effective change?
So we are, so first I want to address your workforce part of your question. One of the things that I failed to mention was that we are working with Lone Star Community College, and we're going to begin working with HCC on developing workforce training for basically fleet electrification. They will train them in fleet management and also mechanics and battery as well. So we're beginning that process of making sure that we have, if we're beginning this transition, that we actually have people who are skilled in this area. And then the change management that you're talking about is, you're right, it is not a speedboat. It's a giant ship that we're trying to shift. And so it does require that engagement with the employees to better understand the direction that we're headed in and how we can be more helpful. But I think that starts from the top by having that customer service mindset and allowing them to know that, at the end of the day, we are here to meet the customer's needs. Thank you.
Any more questions?
I think we have one more. Do you have a question?
Going back to the gentleman's question on capacity, specifically for transmission and overnight, right? So we lose a lot of the resource from solar and other entities. What kind of infrastructure is the CenterPoint looking at, either implementing or putting out there, either storage or battery backup? What kind of systems, just curious to know what you guys have in the planning stage?
So right now we currently secured 500 megawatts of emergency mobile generation. And that emergency mobile generation, we don't generate energy, but the emergency generators are there in case we find ourselves in another Uri situation where we need to be able to supplement some of the power that needs to come in. So, and the great thing about it is that we can rotate it. So if we want to put it in, if we need to move it from one community to the other, we can do that. And so that was actually part of the now piece of like, what is it we can do immediately now to help solve the problem? And so we're really excited about that capability. The legislature authorized us to have that capability during the session following Winter Storm Uri.
The boss has a question?
I did have one final question for you. In terms of the ARPA funds and infrastructure work that's going to be coming, is the Resilient Now plan going to rely on that funding, and how quickly will we be able to see some of the projects related to this plan implemented?
So we do not receive ARPA funding. We are going to be looking at trying to get some federal funding, like for example, if there's anything that we can do to help either support the city or support other organizations, help draw down funds from the federal government. However, we have not waited. We have already started. When we said Resilient Now, we are already starting to implement a resiliency plan. Our engagement with the community will only accelerate and hopefully be able to identify new areas in which we need to also invest in. So if anything, it will help grow and complement what we're doing.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
I know, right? I know. Sure.
Oh, I'm right. I'm closest to you, so.
Try to look presentable.